of aging, your lectures on it.
All right. There we go. I'm going to quickly mute everyone. All right. So we are back in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, and we're on the chapter Visit to the Sinti Brahmo Samaj. And if you remember, we are having a very interesting question or discussion between Thakur Ramakrishna and a sub judge and Trilokya and a few other people in the room about surrendering to God and what are our duties to our families and to our wives and how long do we have to take care of our children and how long do we have to take care of our wife and any possibility we can throw all these things away and join a monastery, kind of just lots of conversations going on. And so the last question was duty to wife and children. How long do I have to, literally, how long do I have to take care of these children? And Ramakrishna was like, dude, you know this, you're a sub judge. All the laws are here for this. And you know what you need to do. You take care of them until they can take care of themselves. And then once they take care of themselves, kick them out. All right? Peck them like the birds and their babies, and the babies won't leave the nest. Peck them, push them out. Time to go. I remember I gave that advice to a woman, an Indian woman, one time in D.C. about her kids. Because as a Westerner, I get quite surprised. You get these young boys and girls that are living with their parents until they're like 40 years old, and I'm like, what in the world? Literally, when I turned 18, literally within a week of turning 18, my father sat me down and was talking about rent. I turned 18. He sat down and said, what's your plan for life? And I said, well, he said, are you going to go to school? And I said, yes, I'm going to go to school. He said, very good. He says, as long as you're in school, you're welcome to come and visit and stay here on the holidays and whatnot. That'll be very nice. But if you're not in school, then we'll have to talk about rent and duties around the place that you'll have to take care of. And I said, oh, okay. I kind of knew that. I liked it. I remember the feeling that I had was like I'd finally become a man and he wasn't treating me like his child anymore. Now I was responsible, so I should get my own house and I should get my own family and get my own life together. That's how I felt about it. And it was quite a nice thing. So, but yeah, and so that pushing out, I'm very familiar with that. It's like, okay, you're 18, you need to be thinking about getting on out there. You're a man now, time to be a man, and go be a man. And I was like, oh, all right, I'll do my best. So here we are. I guess we managed all right. We survived anyway. And so that's what they're talking about. And so today we're picking up with Vijay. I'll pick up with the master actually, because Vijay just says, ah, priceless words. Well, we should hear the priceless words. So let me go back and get them. Here's the master. Uh, Sub judge has just asked, well, what is a householder's duty to his wife? Master, you should give her spiritual advice and support during your lifetime and provide for her livelihood after your death if she is a chaste wife. But if you are intoxicated with the knowledge of God, then you know you have no more duties to perform. Then God Himself will think about your morrow if you yourself cannot do so. God Himself will think about your family if you're intoxicated with Him. If a landlord dies, leaving behind a minor son, then a guardian appointed by the court takes charge of the son. These are all points of law. You know them. Right? So that's his bottom line. He's basically chastising the judge a little bit for his questions, saying, come on. He's what are my duties to my wife? Who doesn't know that? What are my duties to my children? Come on. A goose down at the lake note can answer that question. And so giving a little bit of a hard time. And so Vijay says, priceless words. God Himself carries on His shoulders all the responsibilities of a person who thinks of Him with single minded devotion and is mad with divine love. A minor gets his guardian without seeking him. Alas, when shall I have that state of mind? How lucky they are who feel that way. Right? And I feel like basically those to feel that way is a natural course of time, of course, but also get on your knees. If you can pray for it sincerely, you'll have it. If you're not sincere about it, then do some more discernment in your mind. Start watching your life a little bit more closely so that you get to see the lessons, you get to see the realities, you get to accept, these things in yourself. So yeah, this idea that as you grow spiritually, Mother God, God takes care of these things. When you start getting God intoxicated like Thakur was, he went into samadhi for 6 months. God gave him somebody to take care of him who rolled him over every day and put milk in his mouth and pushed some soaked rice down his throat, to keep him alive while he was in samadhi for 6 months. And so God makes these arrangements. You don't have to worry about these things. Don't clip off your spiritual life because you feel like you have to, get something else taken care of. If you fall in love with the divine and you follow that inspiration, Mother will make those arrangements herself to take care of your responsibilities. If it's love for her that you're pursuing and love for her that you're growing in. So how lucky these are who feel that way. When shall I have that state of mind? Trilokya. Is it ever possible, sir, to have true knowledge of God while living in the world? Can one realize God here? Master, with a smile. Why do you worry? Right? Why are you not being here and now? Why are you worrying about that over there? Right? Why do you worry? You are enjoying both treacle and refined sugar. Everyone laughs. You are living in the world with your mind in God. Isn't that true? Why shouldn't a man realize God in the world? Certainly he can. Trilokya. Well, what are the signs of a householder having attained knowledge? Master. His tears will flow, and the hair on his body will stand on end. No sooner does he hear the sweet name of God than the hair on his body stands on end from sheer delight, and tears roll down his cheeks. A man cannot get rid of body consciousness as long as he is attached to worldly things and loves lust and greed. As he becomes less and less attached to worldly things, he approaches nearer and nearer to the knowledge of self. He also becomes less and less conscious of his body. He attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment totally disappears. Totally disappears. Then he realizes that body and soul are two separate things. It is very difficult to separate with a knife the kernel of a coconut from the shell before the milk inside has dried up. When the milk dries up, the kernel rattles inside the shell. At that time, it loosens itself from the shell. Then the fruit is called a dry coconut. Right? So this is what he's talking about in our practice. Don't be in a hurry. Right? This is done with patience. This is done with gentleness. This will happen at its time. Don't be concerned about it. You keep following your nature. You keep doing your practice. Keep going forward, and enjoy the process of it. When you sit, enjoy the thought of God, and be with that. Get lost in that thought of God to the best of your ability. And keep it real. Don't make it a homework assignment. Don't make it a research project. Make it a love letter. Make it a poem. Make it art this time with God. And enjoy it for its own sake, as it is, that you have time to sit in the presence and to contemplate the presence and to grow in the knowledge of a divine love. I mean, these are beautiful things in and of themselves, right? And it's part of being present, being here now, accepting what is as perfect. I was talking a couple of weeks ago with Atlanta about that. the group there. It was kind of a little chastising, saying, stop being a center that's waiting for a Swami. Stop that. That you're not. You're a center. You're a center that's free. I said, it's a great boon not to have a Swami. All right. If you had a Swami, you just have to sit there and do everything he says and never be asked a question again about what you want. Right. But now you've got a center. Create a center that supports your spiritual life. Do the things you need. Pick the books you want to read together and read them together. Pick the songs you want to sing together. Pick the celebrations you want to celebrate together. What a great boon. You have a center, undefined, ready to be yours, to serve you in any way, right? Why wait for somebody else to use it and fix it for you? You get to work. Enjoy it. Take advantage of this amazing opportunity to create a spiritual center as a group project, everybody together, designing something you yourself that will meet your very own needs. Awesome. And it's that way with your spiritual practice as well. Create a practice that's dynamic. Don't don't take anything off the shelf. Tailor everything. Right? Figure out how it works for you. The stuff that's not working, cut it off, throw it out. Stuff that is working, get more of it. It's you and the beloved. That's all you've ever had. Why need anything else? Just take the beloved and run. Right? So this this is more interested what I'm talking about here. This householder who has realized God, the tears flow, the heart opens, there's gentleness and sweetness there, right? There's an ease of life moves in behind it. Right? Ease of life in the sense of acceptance. You're not up and down, left and right all the time. You're accepting things as they come. You're creating gold as it comes, as the material comes through your door. Right? So he says he attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment disappears. Right? Worldly attachment, that's constantly thinking about, oh, what do I want to do? Oh, what do I want to eat? Oh, where do I want to go? Oh, am I happy? Oh, what should I buy myself? Oh, what should I do with my friends? Right? That's worldly thinking. Right? Spiritual thinking is like what we did on Sunday. Let's take some resources to the park. Let's sit and meditate and think of God and walk around and be available in his garden to garden, to help, right? Walk around and love some people. Walk around and be a human being for a few minutes. So a human being who's out about and thinking about others and being concerned for others and looking for ways to serve, right? So that we're not just me, mine, me, mine. What am I going to do? What should I do? How am I going to be entertained? What am I going to buy? What am I going to eat? Right? We start thinking of others more often. He also becomes less and less conscious of his body. He attains self-knowledge when his worldly attachment disappears. Then he realizes that the body and the soul are two different things. It is very difficult to separate it with the knife, the kernel of a coconut from the shell before the milk inside has dried up. When the milk dries up, the kernel rattles inside the shell. At that time, it loosens itself from the shell. Then the fruit is called a dry coconut, right? And so that's this whole process that we're going through. Ramakrishna says, you're observing your mind, your inner discernment, and the light of awareness. That's what ripens the ego, right? Your inner discernment and awareness as it grows, and that light of awareness. That's how you ripen, right? And that's the process of spiritual life, is ripening. It's not building or creating or discovering or doing. It's ripening, and you can't rush a ripening. The apple sitting there ripening on the tree. Its life is going to be miserable if it tries to rush that along, because you can't rush it along. It happens when it happens. It's in its time, it's in its place, and it's going on. You surrender to the process and you learn to enjoy the process. Learn to be content in the process. Learn to be patient in the process. The whole process itself is all about gaining the what? Gaining the attributes of the self, actually. Kind of training yourself in patience and contentment and acceptance and being fine with where you are, right? Always going forward, but always content where you are at the same time. The sign of a man's having realized God is that he has become like a dry coconut. He has become utterly free from the consciousness that he is the body. He doesn't feel happy or unhappy with the happiness or unhappiness of the body. He does not seek the comforts of the body. He roams about in the world as a Jivan Mukta, one liberated in life. The devotee of Kali is a Jivan Mukta, full of eternal bliss. When you find that that the very mention of God's name brings tears to your eyes and makes your hair stand on end, then you will know that you have freed yourself from the attachment to lust and greed and attained God. If the matches are dry, you get a spark by striking only one of them. But if they are damp, you don't get a spark even if you strike 50. You only waste matches. Similarly, if your mind is soaked in the pleasure of worldly things, in woman and gold, lust and greed, then God consciousness will not be kindled in you. You may try 1,000 times, but all your effort will be futile. But no sooner does attachment to worldly pleasure dry up than the spark of God flashes forward. Right? And so this is that whole thing. You can't live here while running this. Right? While running after things here, you can't live here. And so you have to train yourself. You have to discern yourself. All of these things we've talked about it. That drying the coconut shell. If you want to hurry that along, go inside and, like we talked about, study the boundaries of body in your inner world. Become familiar with them. Study the boundaries of mind in your inner world and become familiar with them. And see, how does body work with me? How does body tell me that it's not sick? How does body tell me that it's hungry? How does body tell me it's tired? Right? And you become very familiar with all the ways that it uses to communicate to you. And then you think, well, how does mind create to me? How does my mind tell me I'm in a bad mood? How does my mind tell me that I'm right or that I'm wrong? How does my mind share with me? How does it show me my thoughts? Right? Go in and study this and figure it out. Because the more that you know about how your internal workings, then the more aware you are of how you're being manipulated by your own mind and your own body. Right? And you begin to see that. You see how the body talks to the mind and how the mind talks to the body, independent of you. Right? And so you start seeing these things. That helps ripening. And you're trying to, that shakiness or that rattling of the coconut they're talking about, that's you knowing that you're not body and mind. Right? He's talking about how before, when the coconut's still green, none of the pieces are separated. It's just one big unit of a green coconut. Right? It doesn't rattle. Nothing is separate. All the parts are all glummed together and sort of lead from one to the next. And there's not a whole lot of detail in there. It's not ripe. It's not ready. And so when it's ripe and ready, then the parts inside are distinct. You know your body. You know your mind. You know the self. And you are aware of the separateness because you've experienced it, studied it, and you've seen how the mind and body speak across it. Right? And so that's how you get the mind to a state where it rattles. so that you can be a ripe ego, right? A ripe ego is one that knows that it's not body mind. And instead of being body mind, which is normally what builds ego, you then put yourself in service to God, either as a servant of God or as a lover of God or the husband or wife or child of God. And you cultivate like a bonsai tree. You cultivate a tamed ego as the servant of God, as the lover of God, right? And so you prune your inner ego like a bonsai. You don't let it grow into some just fast growing, overgrown, huge tree that gets it's going to fall on the house. That's not what you do. You grow a bonsai, right? You take that same tree and you quaff it. You put the branches constantly, putting a wire in there saying, no, don't follow that tendency, follow this tendency, right? And so you create this bonsai tree, and inside, out of ego. So it's controlled, and it's beautiful, and it's in balance, and it's well shaped, and it's well watered and well fed, has a beautiful container, right? Everything has been taken care of. This is how we tend to ourself as a spiritual plant, as it were. Right? Trilokia. What is the way to dry up the craving for worldly pleasure? Master, pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. Right? The other morning, I almost as it was a very wonderful experience actually for me, because I was waking up and I was struggling with the body. The body was in the mind, was just wanting attention and bugging me, and I went to Mother and I was praying to her. I was like, I hate this, Mother, because I can feel the split in my heart. I can feel the renunciation in me rearing up to hold my space, but I can also feel that there's a betrayer in there. There's a small part of the heart that still wants to play, still wants to explore that fun, those feelings. And I said, Lord, I can't go through this. Please, please, please. And I was crying as I was praying. I was like, please don't let this split remain. Please put in me a heart that loves and longs to do what is right. Please fix this. And as it was, I even during the prayer, I felt the changing happening. I felt that little wound healing, and I came out victorious easily that morning. The day went on and was great, and it didn't go like it often goes. And so this is so true. If you really want this, lay down before the Mother and pray, Mother, please, no, no, I just can't do this struggle again. I just can't go through this. Please, and open all the windows. Show her how it hurts. Show her the scars from your battles. Show her how it has hurt to have lost so many times in your life, to have fallen short so often in your life. Open all those doors, and don't lament any of it. Don't go into the details. Just show her. Look at this, Ma. Look at how what this has done to me. Look what this is doing to me. I can't bear this without you. So he just says, pray to the Divine Mother with a longing heart. Her vision dries up all craving for the world and completely destroys all attachment to lust and greed. It happens instantly if you think of her as your own mother, right? If you can, that's grace, right? You have to stand on grace to be able to accept God as your own mother, not convince yourself that she is, not just work so hard at it that you make it that way. It's not like that. Accept it in your own heart. She is my very own mother, my true mother, my only mother, right? She is your own mother, right? She says it happens instantly if you think of her as your own mother. She is by no means a godmother. She is your own mother. With a yearning heart, persist in your demands on her. The child holds to the skirt of its mother and begs a penny of her to buy a kite. Perhaps the mother is gossiping with her friends. At first, she refuses to give the penny and says to the child, no, you can't have it. Your daddy has asked me not to give you money. When he comes home, I'll ask him about it. You will get into trouble if you play with the kite now. The child begins to cry and will not give up his demand. Then the mother says to her friends, "Excuse me a moment, let me pacify this child." Immediately she unlocks the cash box with a click and throws the child a penny, right? So be a spiritual pain to God. That's what he's telling you. Be a screaming brat, right? You can do this. Demand of God. We've been told you are not a beggar. You are God's own heir. So you have authority in you to ask for these things. They are yours as a right. That's what Tucker's telling you right here. Your realization is your right. You know, go to your father to get that inheritance. Go to your mother. Go to your beloved. Right? You too must force your demand on the Divine Mother. She will come to you without fail. You've got the promise, you see. Mother will come. So ask. I keep losing my place. She will come to you without fail. I once said the same thing to some Sikhs when they visited the temple at Dakshineshwar. We were conversing in front of the Kali temple. They said, "God is compassionate." "Why compassionate?" I asked. They said, "Well, why, revered sir? He is constantly looking after us. He gives us righteousness and wealth and provides us with our food." "Suppose," I said, "a man has children, who will look after them and provide them with food? Their own father or a man from another village," right? So you see what he's saying is like we say, "Oh, God is so compassionate." And Ramakrishna is taking it up a notch here. He's saying, "Why are you calling God compassionate? Is it compassionate for a man to take care of his own children? That's not compassion, that's duty, right? That's the way it's supposed to be." So he's saying to you, don't be bewildered that God thinks of you. Don't be bewildered that God loves you. Of course he loves you. He made you. He's let you live this long. If he didn't like you, he would have snapped you off the planet a long time ago. Like, oh God, get rid of this one. No, God is your very own. Live like that. Live like that. Trust like that. Know it in your heart. You don't have to keep going back and convincing him again and again to love you, to forgive you. You don't have to come up with another reason of why he should. He doesn't work on reasons with you. He doesn't work on a record of rights and wrongs with you. He works on a divine spirit with a divine love, and you will never understand it. Accept it. Fall in love at it. And let yourself expand freely in the love of God. The sub-judge: "Is not God then compassionate, sir?" Master: "Why should you think that? I just made a remark. What I mean to say is that God is your very own. We can exert force on him. With one's own people, one can even go so far as to say, 'You rascal, won't you give it to me?' Right? If God's your very own, he is your very own. Have you stood in prayer with your hands on your hips? 'You rascal, give it to me. How long have I been waiting? I'm 61 years old. What am I going to do with this trinket when you give it to me at 80? Who cares? I want it when I can still get up and walk across the room with it.'" You know, I'm just playing with it, but have the get ballsy, get mouthy, right? Get in there, get some chutzpah, right? Go ask for what's yours. Stop mealy mouthing around. "Oh, I'm so meek and mild. Poor little me. I don't have it. Oh, when will I have it? Oh, this is terrible." Ah, We want someone to jump up and get busy. Start throwing things around the room, right? Start throwing your worldly things out the window, screaming. Fine, you want the television gone? The television's gone. Where's my realization? We can exert force on him with one's own people. One can go even so far as to say, "You rascal, won't you give it to me?" To the subjudge, let me ask you one thing. Are vanity and egotism the result of knowledge or of ignorance? Egotism is the nature of tamas, right? Tamas is inertia. It is begotten by ignorance. On account of the barrier of ego, one does not see God, right? Ego and Maya are the same thing. It's the reason that we look out and see objects and people and places and things rather than seeing God. It's egotism. Egotism is what has broken everything up into objects. Egotism is what has named them as separate things. Egotism is what has given them qualities and proposed attraction to them, right? That's egotism. But in reality, it's your beloved. All of it. All of it. Symbols of the love of your beloved for you. And if we can get ego out of the way, we see that. If we don't get ego out of the way, we don't see that. Egotism is the nature of tamas. It is begotten of ignorance. On account of the barrier of ego, one does not see God. All troubles come to an end when the ego dies. It is futile to be egotistic. Neither body nor wealth will last. Once a drunkard was looking at the image of Durga. At the sight of her decorations, he said, "Well, mother, however you may fix yourself up, after 2 or 3 days, they will drag you out and throw you in the Ganges." All right? There's something very humorous about that to me, standing in Bellermont in the temple and looking at the Durga statue and telling her, "As good as you might look, mother, 2 or 3 days, they're just going to pitch you in the river right down there by the Ghat." Right? It's that kind of ground level authenticity that is natural to a devotee. Say it like it is. Speak the truth always. Right? Just be right there with it. So I say to you all, you may be a judge or anybody else, but it is all for 2 days only. Therefore, you should give up vanity and pride. The characteristic of sattva, rajas, and tamas are very different. Egotism, sleep, gluttony, lust, anger, and the like are the traits of people with tamas. Men with rajas entangle themselves in many activities. Such a man has clothes all spick and span. His house is immaculately clean. A portrait of the queen hangs on the wall in his drawing room. He worships God. To worship God, he wears a silk cloth. He has a string of rudraksha beads around his neck, and in between the beads he puts a few gold ones. When someone comes to visit the worship hall in his house, he himself acts as a guide. After showing the hall, he says to the visitor, "Please come this way, sir. There are other things, too, the floor of white marble and the Nat Mandir with its exquisite carvings." And when he gives a charity, he makes a show of it. But a man endowed with sattva is quiet, is peaceful. So far as dress is concerned, anything will do. He earns only enough money to give his stomach the simplest food. He never flatters men to get money. His house is out of repair. He never worries about his children's clothing. He does not hanker for name and fame. His worship, his charity, and meditation are all done in secret. People do not know about them at all. He meditates inside of his mosquito curtain. People think he doesn't sleep well at night, and for that reason he sleeps late in the morning. Sattva is the last step of the stairs. Next is the roof. As soon as the sattva is acquired, there is no further delay in attaining God. One step forward and God is realized. To the sub-judge, didn't you say that all men were equal? Now you see that there are so many varieties of human nature. There are still other classes and kinds of people. For instance, there are those who are eternally free, those who have attained liberation, those struggling for liberation, and those entangled in the world. So many varieties of people. Sages like Narada and Sukadeva are eternally free. They are like a steamship which not only crosses the ocean but can carry big animals, even an elephant. Further, the soul that is eternally free is like the superintendent of an estate. After bringing one part of the estate under control, he goes to another. Those struggling for liberation strive heart and soul to free themselves from the net of the world. One or two of them may get out of the net. They are called the liberated. The souls that are eternally free are clever like fish. They never get caught in the net. But the souls that are entangled, involved in worldliness, never come to their senses. They lie in that net, but are not even conscious that they are entangled. If you speak of God before them, they at once leave the place. They say, "Ugh, why God now? We think of him in the hour of our death." But when they lie on their deathbeds, they say to their wives or children, "Why have you put so many wicks in the lamp? Use only one wick, otherwise too much oil will be burned." While dying, they think of their wives and children and weep, "Alas, what will happen to them after my death?" Right? All right. Any insights or questions on anything we've looked at? So these different types of people, it's sattva, rajas, and tamas that kind of tunes us all into our presented character, right? We've got a certain amount of all three of those aspects in ourselves. And then Ramakrishna, he says that you can describe devotion that way too. You can have a tamasic devotion, a devotion that makes demands of God, free me, take me out of here. You can have that rajasic worship, where just lots of details and lots of frills and lights and candles and bells and whistles, and you're just all involved, and a special asana layered with another special asana, and then another one on top of that, and then a pillow, and then another one. All of
Uh,
these things.
Swamiji, I have a question.
Yeah.
So you said, or he says rather, that there are eternally liberated kind of souls that don't even touch physicality. Does it mean that they embodied human beings,
Yeah.
or
Yeah, he would be talking about those people who come to the world purely to teach. They don't have any other interests. They're not entangled in the world. They're not interested in money. They're not interested in enjoyment.
that would be avatars, or
The avatars are the highest of that class, but then there's also his companions.
oh, could you
That
tell
come.
us more about them?
Yeah, they're like the devotees of Jesus, the 12 disciples of Jesus. When every time the incarnation comes, he brings a group of people with him, a group of sages. And, Ramakrishna in places in the gospel talks about some of his uh, direct disciples were actually direct disciples of Krishna. You know, he even has one or two that he points to them and says, "You were there with Jesus. You were one of the disciples of Jesus." Right, and so it's that group of people that follow the incarnations. And I don't imagine they have to follow the incarnation. I imagine that they can come down and do some stuff on their own, in the world, or in help to humanity.
And then he says that there are those who were liberated.
Yeah,
And
that's you and me. Once we come to our liberation, or those who are liberated while still living. Most people realize God when they die. We die, we watch the body drop away, We're kind of surprised that we're still there. We look around for a minute. We're like, oh my God, I have no body and I'm still here. Takor, Takor, I'm over here. Right. And boom, you realized. You know for a fact you're not body mind.
But I mean, people say, or I mean, I don't remember where I read or heard that during the death or right after we exit the physical bodies, we're giving a chance kind of a, for realization if we choose, to go with light, something like that. Is there anything in the teachings about it?
No, anything that's taught about after death, I would stay away from. The scriptures don't give us much information there, and I take that to be that it's not important. You're living right now, and your liberation will come out of that. Right. And so when you die, what happens is that the body drops off. And if you think you're the body, it's that thing when you're dying, if you believe yourself to be the body, well, the body's dying, and you're going to experience that death. Right. And you're going to think it's me, and it's going to be terrifying. But if you're a devotee, if you've done your practice, you've gone inside, you've seen the separation, you know that you are not the body mind, then you watch the body die. And you don't go through that panic, you don't go through that terror. You watch it shut down, it becomes silent. And instead of freaking out because all of a sudden where there was a body, there's now only silence, you're a child of silence. God fills that silence for you, not fear, like somebody who's not aware. Fear would fill that silence. Panic would fill that silence. But for you as the observer, calmness, surrender fills that silence. And then when the mind begins to silence, as the body mind dies, drops off, that silence, God fills that silence for you. You're absorbed in a sense of love and wonder, right? And you're carried. And at that point, if you can keep your surrender and let yourself lay in the arm of the beloved and accept all that is as being perfect and turn your heart to the divine, when you have no body and mind, that will be liberation for you, right? For the worldly person, their panic will only subside when they've grabbed a new body and reincarnate again, back to their familiar self, back to the world they know, right? But for those who know, you're free forever at that point. But the work is done here, not there. So we don't have to know a whole lot about that. We just have to do and be responsible for what we know here and now, and be here and now, and take care of business, as they say.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. The entangled souls repeat those very actions that make them suffer so much. Right? Most of us are familiar with that. We get into these bad habits. We know they're not good for us, but we like them for some reason. And anytime we're tempted with them, we just go running after them. Right? Oh yeah, I'll have another drink. Right? And it goes down and down. He says, they are like the camel, which eats thorny bushes until the blood streams from its mouth, but it still won't stop eating the thorny bushes. Such a man may have lost his son and be stricken with grief, but still he will have children year after year. He may ruin himself by his daughter's marriage, but still he will go on having daughters year after year. And he says, what can I do? It's just my luck. When he goes to a holy place, he doesn't even have any time to think of God. He almost kills himself carrying bundles for his wife. Entering the temple, he is very eager to give his child the holy water to drink or make him roll on the floor, but he has no time for his own devotions. These bound creatures slave for their masters to earn food for themselves and their families, and they earn money by lying, cheating, and flattery. They laugh at those who think of God and meditate on him and call them lunatics. So, you will see how many different kinds of men there are. You said that all men are equal, but how many varieties of men there are. Some have more power and some have less. Right. And the thing is, all of us get to be each of those categories. With all these lives that we go through, all of us, were at one time very worldly minded people. I don't even have to go to another life for that. But, it's like we all play these roles. We all grow and we all learn. So it's not a condemnation here of particular groups of people that are inescapable, right? It's just saying, look, this is how men and women grow. These are the stages. There's worldly people, then they grow, they become spiritual seekers, then they keep growing, they become liberated, and they keep growing, and then they become, a few of them, a handful will become, bodhisattvas will become people who don't want their own liberation. They want to keep coming to serve the world. That's a very beautiful heart to have. And you can have that heart, right? The entangled creatures, right? The entangled creatures attached to worldliness. They talk only of worldly things in the hour of death. What will avail such men if they outwardly repeat the name of God, take a bath in the Ganges, or visit sacred places? If they cherish within themselves attachment to the world, it must show up at the hour of death. While dying, they will rave nonsense. Perhaps they cry out in a delirium, turmeric powder, seasoning, bay leaf. The singing parrot, when at ease, repeats the holy names of Radha and Krishna. But when it is seized by a cat, it utters its own natural sound. It squawks, caw, caw. It is said in the Gita that whatever one thinks in the hour of death, one becomes in the afterlife. King Bharata gave up his body exclaiming, deer, deer, D-E-E-R, and was born as a deer in his next life. But if a man dies thinking of God, then he attains God, and he does not have to come back to the life of this world, right? So really what he's saying there, that's not just a superstitious statement saying that, hey, if you die thinking of God, you go straight to God. There's implications there. You'll think of at the time of death what you've been thinking of most of your life. And if you've been a steady practitioner and you've been doing your mantra and you've spent your time, controlling your senses and sitting in the thought and the presence of God, you'll be able to do that at the time as the body is dropping off. And if you're doing it at the time of the body is dropping off, you'll find freedom, he says, right? So practice now so that you'll be in the habit. Get that mantra going in that mind so that it's always going, right? So that mantra never stops. You can do all manner of work with the mantra going in your mind, right? And so that's how we train ourselves to constantly think of God, to constantly remember my divine nature. Never forget that I'm here to be available to the divine lover, to love, right? And if you're doing that, just keep doing that. Don't worry about all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. It's you and your lover. Tend to that relationship. Sweeten that relationship. Broaden that relationship. Be dynamic. You're an artiste. At the beginning, you color in the lines. You do things as you're told. You're very careful about it. Perfect. Fine. But when you grow up and you're an artist, you don't pull out your color book with the lines to color in. You pull out an empty canvas and you express and you create beauty with no instruction, with no rules, no guidance. Why? Because you've trained yourself to express so that you can place on that canvas what is in your mind, what is in your heart, right? And so make your practice the same way. Yes, in the beginning, color in the lines, memorize the songs, think of the chants, read the scriptures, then do that. But there comes a time when you have to break out of that. Start trying your experiments. Start trying a different name for God, a secret one that only you know. Play with God. Start demanding things. Start questioning things. Start laughing at things. Right? I remember when I was doing the puja, I'm not great at a puja. Swami Prabhupada taught me how to do a devotional puja, right? And so I would do that devotional puja, and I'm always forgetting something. I'm a total airhead. I'll be sitting there, I'll be ready to do the puja, I'll be sitting down, lighting the candles, and I'll look around, there's no Ganges water. I'm like, oh, well, here I am. And as you knew would happen, I didn't get any Ganges water. So I'm going to go to the sink and get a coffee cup now and fill it with tap water. And this is going to be our Ganges water, because certainly by now, every drop of water in the planet has run through the Ganges at least once. Right. So now we've got Ganges water. And so I'll sit there and I'll smile at Mother as I pour my coffee cup of Ganges water over my offering. I know it's ridiculous. 61-year-old monk can't remember to get Ganges water to the shrine. There's an absurdity to that, and I would at one time in my life weep over that, to be sorry and feel guilty and stop doing puja because I was unworthy. Nowadays, I chuckle. I'm like, Mother, this is who you've selected to do your puja. You chose me, you're stuck with me. All right? There comes a time where you just have to let go and be free. Trust grace. Trust the love of God for you. And stop letting the little stuff knock you out. Right? Play. Be free and think of God. He'll take care of you, every bit of it. He will not let you wander if you do not let yourself wander in your mind. Right? So we'll stop there for the day today. Let me